The last lesson introduced us to the Mughal Emperor Akbar. Akbar was the third Mughal emperor and he ascended the throne in 1556 following the untimely death of his father Humayun. In our last lesson, we talked at great length about Akbar's very successful military career. We learned about how Akbar had annexed several regions in order to help the Mughal Empire extend in size and power. Subsequently, we also saw how during the rule of Akbar, the Mughal Empire controlled vast regions of the Indian subcontinent. The question that arises in this regard is that how was it possible for Akbar to rule such a huge empire? And mind you, Akbar's rule was very prosperous and efficient. So in this lesson, we will be focusing on Akbar's administrative policies. And upon discussing Akbar's administrative policies, it will be easier for us to understand how he maintained a very efficient as well as prosperous rule. Any discussion on Akbar's administrative policies would bring us to the Mansabdari system that Akbar introduced in 1571. In Akbar's rule, people from various groups like the Afghans, the Deccans, the Rajputs used to stay. This is because Akbar had consolidated the Mughal Empire by controlling several regions in the subcontinent. And so people of different groups stayed together during Akbar's rule under the umbrella of the Mughal Empire. Now those people who held any office, be that a military office or an administrative office during the rule of the Mughal Empire came to be known as the Mansabdar. Now what do we understand by this Mansabdari system that Akbar had introduced in 1571? Let us now learn about the functioning of this Mansabdari system. But before getting into discussing the functioning of the Mansabdari system, let us look at the origin of the word Mansab. Mansab means rank or position. From this, what we can infer is that the Mansabdari system had something to do with the ranks or the positions of those people who served the Mughal Empire. The Mansabdari system was a grading system and it was used to fix rank, salary and responsibilities of those officials who served the Mughal Empire. So basically these officials who served the Mughal Empire in different capacities were given a particular rank under this Mansabdari system, and then these people came to be known as the Mansabdars. These Mansabdars, after being assigned a rank, had to shoulder certain responsibilities. They had both military as well as civil responsibilities to shoulder. And on account of the work that they did for the Mughal Emperor, they were then given a remuneration. So this Mansabdari system basically had to do with the rank, the responsibility as well as the remunerations of the various officials under various Mughal emperors. The Mansabdars were appointed directly by the emperor himself, and these Mansabdars could be called for either civil or military services. So these Mansabdars were appointed by the emperor. The Mansabdars then had to render different kinds of services for the Mughal emperor. Now this Mansabdari system helped Akbar to further strengthen his administration in the sense that various kinds of responsibilities were now being shouldered by these Mansabdars. These Mansabdars had to maintain an army of cavalrymen, and they had to get the horses branded as well. So upon getting the horses branded, the Mansabdars were then given their revenue with which they could pay salary to the cavalrymen. The question that arises in this regard is that were these mansabdars given their payment the way your fathers and mothers receive today? Well, no, because in medieval times monetary transactions did not happen. The mansabdars were paid in a different kind of way that we will be learning about soon. So the rank and salary of the mansabdars were determined by the Zat. What do we understand by the Zat? Zat refers to the number of soldiers each mansabdar maintained. We just learnt that these mansabdars had to maintain an army of cavalrymen. And larger the number of cavalrymen or soldiers that a mansabdar maintained, higher the rank and position of that mansabdar. And higher the rank of the mansabdar, more was the salary that was assigned to that mansabdar. Now, to answer the question that how these mansabdars were paid by the Mughal emperors, we see that the mansabdars were given land grants, and these land grants were known as the Jagirs. So this was the Jagirdari system of extending land grants to the mansabdars. The Jagirdari system was quite similar to the Iqtidari system that was prevalent during the rule of various sultans under the Delhi Sultanate. Under the Iqtidari system, various nobles, army men, various courtiers, officials were given land grants by the Delhi sultans, which were known as the Iqtas. And here the Mughal emperor extended land grants to the mansabdars, and these land grants were known as the Jagirs. But the Jagirdari system was slightly different from the Iqtidari system in the sense that the mansabdars used to reside in the Jagirs only. And the revenue that these mansabdars could earn from the Jagirs was actually the salary of the mansabdars. Now these mansabdars used to appoint servants who used to collect taxes or rents from those Jagirs that were assigned to the mansabdars. And then these taxes were used as revenue by the mansabdars for the service that they rendered to the Mughal Empire. And in this way, the Jagirdari system worked hand in hand with the mansabdari system. Now, unlike the Muktis who were governors under the Iqtidari system and administered the Iqtas, the mansabdars on the other hand used to reside in the Jagirs, as we just mentioned. Akbar also took special efforts to oversee the functioning of both the mansabdari and the Jagirdari systems. Before proceeding with this lesson, let me ask you a question. What were the land grants extended to the mansabdars by the Mughal emperors known as? Were these land grants known as Iqta, Jagir, Mansab or Zabt? Well, the correct answer is Jagir. The land grants that the Mughal emperors extended to the mansabdars for the service that they rendered to the Mughal Empire were known as the Jagirs. Now, during Akbar's reign, the Jagirs were carefully assessed as to whether those remained roughly equal to the salary of the mansabdar. So the mansabdars earned their salary in form of the revenue or the taxes that could be obtained from the Jagirs or the land grants that were extended to them. And Akbar took special efforts to see whether these Jagirs were equal to the salary of the mansabdars. And if these Jagirs produced more taxes, then the extra amount would go to the Mughal treasury invariably. A very important question that we need to address in this regard is that how did Akbar maintain such a huge empire? Because in order to make any state, any empire, any monarchy function, huge amounts of resources and wealth are required. And without a huge amount of wealth and resources, efficient administration can never be ensured. So how was this done? The Mughal Empire relied upon the tax on the produce of peasants as the source of income. So the taxes that were paid by the peasants constituted the most important source of income for the Mughal Empire, and this is how the Mughal treasury kept on amassing huge resources. Now, how do you think did these poor peasants paid their taxes to fill the Mughal treasury? To this end now came into being the zamindars. The zamindars acted as the intermediaries between the peasants on the one hand and the Mughal emperors on the other hand. These zamindars were landowners, and the peasants used to till and work on the lands which were owned by these intermediaries called zamindars. Then these peasants paid taxes for working on those lands owned by the zamindars to the zamindars themselves. And in turn, these zamindars paid revenue to the Mughal Empire. So this is how the Mughal Empire earned its income from the taxes on the produce of the peasants. Now Akbar was a very efficient Mughal emperor. He knew how to consolidate the Mughal Empire. He also knew how to maintain a very efficient administrative system. But for a good administrative system to function, he needed to earn more and more revenue. Akbar's revenue minister, Todar carried out an extensive survey of crops, yields, prices and areas cultivated between the years 1570 and 1580. So in this period of 10 years, an extensive survey was carried out by Todar. And what was the outcome of this extensive survey? This extensive survey now helped Akbar to understand which crops could be grown in which places. At the same time, it also helped Akbar to assign particular taxes to various crops. So in this way, this extensive survey was very important in the sense that now individual crops were assigned particular taxes. Now this extensive survey could be carried out in only those regions which were directly under the control of the Mughal Empire. In regions like Gujarat, Bengal, this extensive survey could not be carried out. Why is it so? Because the zamindars of these regions like Gujarat and Bengal were very powerful. More often than not, they did not accept the Mughal emperor's suzerainty. And so, invariably, they came in conflict with the Mughal Empire. So they kept on being embroiled in a series of conflicts with the Mughal Empire. These zamindars were of the opinion that when the administrators came to survey the crops, the yield as well as the areas that were cultivated, these people exploited the peasants there. And in many cases, the zamindars were joined by the peasants of certain regions to rise in rebellion against the Mughal emperor. Akbar's administrative policies were very efficient, as we have been talking all this while. But for a single emperor sitting at the center of the huge empire, it was not possible to take care of everything single-handedly. And so Akbar had to divide his huge empire into small provinces which were called the Subas. So the huge kingdom that was the total territory of the Mughal Empire, was divided into small provinces which were called the Subas. The Subas were headed by the Subadars. So the Subadars were in charge of both civic as well as military responsibilities in their respective Subas. Now then, for the Subas to function, finances also had to be taken care of. Now who took care of the finances in the Subas? Well, finances in the Subas were under the control of the Diwan. So the Diwans used to carry out all the financial functions in the respective Subas that they belonged to. After this, when many people stayed together in the Subas, they had their own religions. And different kinds of disputes also arose among these people. So various kinds of disputes on religious matters had to be settled. At the same time, charity work also happened in these Subas. Well, who took care of these religious affairs and charity work in the Subas? These were under the control of the Sadar. And then the town police in the Subas was called the Kotwal. We know that these Subas were small provinces. These were small administrative units under the huge Mughal Empire. And so the military forces also required to be maintained in these respective Subas. The military commander in these Subas was the Faujdar, and the Bakshi was the military paymaster. So this is how the Mughal Empire was divided into small administrative units called the Subas under the Mughal Emperor Akbar, and this is how various functions were carried out by a whole lot of people so as to ensure efficient and proper administration in these Subas. With this, we come to an end of our discussion on Akbar's administrative policies. We learned that as a very efficient administrator, as a very efficient Mughal emperor, Akbar made sure to have his rule extended in every possible way. And so he introduced the Mansabdari system. These Mansabdars were then paid in the form of land grants, which also necessitated the functioning of the Jagirdari system. We also learnt about how the kingdom under the Mughal Emperor Akbar was divided into small provinces called the Subas, and these were the officials who served the Mughal Empire by working in their respective Subas. So having learnt about Akbar's administrative policies in this lesson, in our subsequent lesson we will be taking up a new line of discussion that would introduce us to Akbar's religious policies. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app to learn one-to-one with our amazing teachers, or to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it's rewarding too. So register for free now.